have a deficit. But it's much more a serious thing when you say you will do X, or your deficit will be X, and you end up doing X squared. That's where the indiscipline comes from. Okay, and then it's very difficult for the market to trust you. It's very difficult for government then to have the necessary policy credibility. Okay, so look at, 2000, we said we will do this deficit. We said we will do this deficit. We ended up doing what? This. So just look at the variation, the level of what? Indiscipline. So you can see that, of course, 2004, we can say it's an outlier because of also HAPEC reliefs, and then the fact that the election really wasn't that competitive compared to the other year. So again, you can see the deficit mirrors that temperature. So once the political temperature also goes up, our tendency to overspend also goes up. And that is why we all have a role to play in moderating the political temperature. Then you can look at 2008, what we said we would do and where we ended up. You can look at 2012 and all of that. So, I mean, it's as serious as that. So this level of indiscipline tends to cost the country a lot. And don't forget that these are arrears that will have to be financed in the subsequent years. And sometimes the source and the motivation for this deficit are politically motivated. They are not done necessarily to engineer productivity growth. And that is why anytime we have gone through these competitive elections, inflation tends to head up. And then we have been financing this also from the central bank. So what was the objective? I'm not focusing on all the others. I'm just looking at this. It said to ensure a sizable and front-loaded fiscal adjustment to restore debt sustainability. That meant towards the end of 2014, debt was an issue. We were spending more than 40% of our tax revenue just to service our debt. And the rest goes to wages and salaries. Very soon we'll demonstrate where we are right now, because part of the borrowing government is doing is to also finance a little bit of consumption also. Because when we put all the statutory obligations together, they actually take all the domestic revenue we are able to generate by way of tax. So even for goods and services from government side, sometimes we have to support that with some kind of debt, and that is not good for us. So since the objective was also, one of the objectives was to restore debt sustainability, let's look at how we ended it from the IMF itself. So the IMF concludes the review and says that Ghana's risk of external and overall debt distress continue to be assessed as high. Essentially meaning that we are a high-risk debt distress country. That meant our probability of default goes up a bit. And once you are a high-risk debt distress country, then the understanding is that the perceived default is slightly higher, and investors will hold out for a higher protection from the perceived default by holding out for higher yield. Even with that, in the last Eurobonds we have done, we have managed to secure what we consider to be a favorable rate, and we have even had a little bit of get-together over that. Okay.